I want to talk podcasting because
we do a podcast.
Yeah, we do, and we shout out to us for 6 years of consistent product. I'm looking at podcasts as a whole because we've done this for a while, and when we did it, I'm not saying we broke the mold and started podcasting, but we've done this for a long time. And I think podcasting is officially turning into like the alternative for artists and athletes, and I feel like it's starting to get saturated, kind of like music did, like where everybody does music now. We see more music, we have more access to it. Am I hating when I say that, or is that a fair assessment?
It's been that way for a little while.
You think so?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I see only reason I ask is because I'm starting to see more artists get the spinoffs, and then they might do it for a little bit, then they'll stop. Like Fat Joe had
That's
one
because
during
I see the money that they're
the bag they can get off of it.
Yeah, they're seeing what their constituents and their peers are making off of podcasts, and they want to tap into that money too.
Because it feels like
Gilly and Wallow just signed a $100 million deal with
Ball.
Dang.
What is it?
What's his name?
It's called
Barstool.
Barstool.
Yeah, they got $100 million.
So I just sometimes you see artists pop in and pop out. Like Fat Joe was an example. Athletes are starting to tap in. Like it's a revolving door of the interviews. You start to see the same people get interviewed.
Going to shoot his pod.
Yeah, like it's I don't know, man. I don't want to be considered a hater because we do this, but it's just an assessment of the times. I think everybody's popping up with podcasts, and sometimes they last, sometimes they don't. And it's just turning into rap to me. Like, would everybody rap? Now everybody got a podcast.
I mean, you can think about since we started doing a podcast, there were a few that started at the same time that we started and might have made it to episode 10.
You talking about like locally?
Yeah. So, I mean.
But which is one of the main reasons why when we started this, one of my main pushing points of this was, all right, it needs to be visual.
Mm-hmm.
And it needs to be something that's a little bit different so it can kind of grow into itself, because it looks way different than what it did when we started, what I mean? Man. You know what I mean? But we were like attempting the visual stuff even at the beginning because I knew like we had to stand out because this was going to be something that everybody was going to do.
Right.
But I don't know, to that I would say I don't really have a problem with people doing it necessarily. I mean, I think everything's going to be oversaturated.
Do you see the correlation as it relates to how music is versus how this has become?
It's just media.
Just media.
It's media.
Just lump it into one media and content.
Media and content. Yep.
Okay.
Well, it's also something that we talked about a little bit last week when everyone who has a podcast is not a journalist.
Right.
Like I said, we are content creators. I would never say that we're on the level. We're just journalists. And I think that's where a lot of people get things confused.
I'm a journalist. I got a press pass.
Oh, man.
Where people get confused. Everybody wanted to be so mad at Nori. And some people, they understood exactly where he was coming from. He was like, I'm a journalist. I was like, nah. Calm down. I do think that a lot of people don't realize that this is work and consistency is the key as far as building an audience. I've had more than one person when I say that I'm on a podcast and this, that, and the third, they're like, oh man, I want to do a podcast.
First reaction.
And then I tell them, okay, if you're going to do a podcast, you need to, if it comes out every Tuesday, it needs to come out every Tuesday, or for us, it comes out every Thursday. If you're going to do it once a month, do it once a month. If you're going to do it bi-weekly, do it, but don't say, oh, I want to do something every week and you don't have something to say every week. That's where a lot of people get the game messed up is they think, okay, I have something to say every week. And then they get on and they think we're just getting on here and we're just talking.
Right.
I know it sounds like that.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know me in real life. I don't talk to anybody.
Exactly.
That's facts actually.
And the thing is like, really the genesis is a lot of these are when we would have conversations, we would go to coaches.
Yeah.
And it was like,
for sure.
we should, record some of this stuff,
Right.
But at the same time, there's a structure. Like some people just think, oh, I'm going to turn on the microphone
and talk.
And in 2 hours, I'm going to have a podcast and I'm going to get all these sponsorships and I'm going to be in like, no. Like I had, a friend of mine who still listens and, they know who I'm talking about. I'm going to keep it very vague. And like they recorded a podcast. I listened to it. I had my back and forth. And it was like the person that they were going to record the podcast was like, oh, wait a minute, people are going to hear this. And I was like, that's the whole point of a podcast. They just thought they were just two friends talking on a microphone, and they was just going to go ahead and get rich all of a sudden, and nobody was going to hear what they were saying.
No, it doesn't look like that.
There are people that just don't have a concept of what this is, the work that it takes to do it. And, everybody's not, you better have a passion for this. You better have a passion for what you're talking about. And it's just like when I tell people, back in the day when I did radio, I said, when somebody said, hey, I love music, I want to get into radio. And I told them, you should love radio, because if you love music, radio will break your heart.
Sure.
If you're in this because you want to be famous and you want to be rich, then it's going to break your heart. You better do this because you have something to say. You actually enjoy communicating, even with this, I love the fact that we have, people in the chat, people who come and they see us every week. And I'll get texts from people who say, hey, I watch you guys like I watch a TV show, like when you guys put it on YouTube.
Love hearing that.
You know what I'm saying? But are any of us famous? No, we're not famous. We're not as famous as Gilly and Wallow or Joe Budden or.
We ain't seen that 100 million yet.
Not yet.
Ain't nobody offering us no deals. We do this because we have a passion for it. And if you don't have a passion for it, then I would say, hey man, find another way to spend your time.
And that's kind of with everything media wise, because people like to tap into that energy based on what they see other people doing.
Yep.
And think it's a walk in the park.
Kind of like DJing.
Right.
You
just can't get beyond some turntables.
Yeah.
And stuff. You just can't get beyond turntables and automatically know what you're doing. You got to have a musical ear. It's more than having the equipment and more than having songs. I've had people ask me, can they have my whole library? I'm like,
what?
No. Like they're about to buy some equipment. Hey man, you mind if I can get all your music? Absolutely not. Why would I do that?
No.
Part of being a DJ is creating your own style of DJing and getting your own music. Now, granted, you might get a folder or something from somebody with
for sure.
Get you a little starter kit or something.
Yeah,
like
but
that.
you're not about to. You think I'm about to just hand you my whole everything that I've pretty much worked for and
rights of
structured? You know,
hey, could you hook up the Q points for me too?
Yeah, come on, man.
Excuse me. People don't understand what you go through to develop that.
Yeah,
they don't know how long you've pulled
Not
records
overnight.
from here, pulled it from there to get to where it is.
Look,
Yeah.
I had,
You know what I'm saying?
and this is the thing, like people don't want to, about the work and the 10,000 hours. We talked about it before. I had somebody, of course, if like I run a nightclub.
Talk to them.
They were like, hey, can I get on? I've been DJing for 5 years.
Where?
What you say, Long?
And it's and it's not to knock anybody who's been DJing for 5 years, but when me and the person who are coming in, we got about 50 years of party rocking between us. You tell us about your 5 years. It's hard for me to get excited about your 5 years.
Come on, man.
There's certain things you just shouldn't say to certain people.
Yeah. Everybody want to be featured. They want to, hey, can I come through and rock next time? Blah, blah, blah. I mean,
It's the same way with the podcast.
I have a question for you, Long. As it relates to this conversation, do you think with the expansion of quote unquote media, is the bag going to start to change? Is the you know
it's
how we
already
are,
changed.
I'm talking about going in which direction, because as we get more people podcasting, it's just like rappers. It started off CDs were this, CDs were that. Now it's streaming. Like, do you feel like the bread is going to start to adjust as more podcasts pop out?
I feel like it's going to
Sponsorships and
I feel like it's going to be better, and it already has been, right? This is a trend that's already happened with pretty much everything. When you get a whole bunch of people interested in a whole bunch of stuff, the people that are really good or take it serious are going to stand out that much more from the people that don't take it as serious or aren't as knowledgeable. The one other thing that I was going to add real quick, it's not just about consistency. It's not just about having a love for wanting to do it and wanting to talk about something and stuff. It's also like being knowledgeable on the stuff you're talking about and having some sort of integrity about you, about what you're speaking on. Like, we're not just four random people talking about hip hop, regardless of if you know us or not.
True.
If you really want to pull our cards or go look us up, you can.
Google's a powerful tool.
It really is. So that's a part of it too. But back to your question. Yes, I feel like overall it's good. It's good I feel like it's good for people like us because more people are going to be looking at the space to want to give money to it.
Right.
In that aspect. I don't necessarily believe in the oversaturation thing in the sense of it hurting people that are a part of it. Only because there's an infinite amount of money out there and there's an infinite amount of space and time. It's just one thing that we are always going to have to do, and we do every week, is we have to battle for airtime with people's attention spans. That's the hardest part.
True.
So, but as far as the the money portion of it, I think it's going in the direction. I think more companies are doing it. Everybody does have a podcast or something like that. Everybody wants to sit and talk about something, but what's going to make me want to listen? And we struggle with it. It's not like we have a bazillion people that listen every week.
True.
We have a lot of people that listen every week, but we don't have a ridiculous amount. And it's a challenge because even though we are experts in our field, which I would say, it's also something that where we're also not really anybody that's super motivated by being super popular or being super.
That's a good point.
It's kind of like
if we wanted to
beginning
be
of
popular,
hip-hop.
we trust me, we talk about other things.
We could get there. We know how to get there is my point. We could get there very quickly. It's not really that hard.
Go ahead.
No, it's similar to the beginning of hip hop. I mean, it started out for love. I mean, you see how people that do it for the love.
Mm-hmm.
That bag wasn't there yet.
Right.
The same thing is going on with podcasts. Like there was a pocket for it. There was some revenue for it.
Right.
But now I just see it going up and up and up. I mean, like I just said, Barstool just gave Wallow and Gilly 100 mil.
Yeah.
Like when what's his name? Joe Budden got his deal.
It was unheard of.
That was massive.
Yeah.
When Joe Rogan got his deal.
It was like, what?
That was massive. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just going to continue to grow and get bigger based on, I mean, of course you have to have the fans and you have to have the content, but it still has to have that look.
Mm-hmm.
You both made a good point. I had the conversation with my mother as well. When we talked about, we know how to get there. We want to get there. And I told my mom, I said, she follows, and I'm not saying watching every episode, but she knows what's going on.
Does she watch the episodes where you screw up the English language?
I'm sure you've sent them to her.
No.
I mean, we could create a whole super cut.
He'll do a collage and I can show it to my mom.
Or the video.
No, what is the one where you said spoke?
No.
I was like, fam.
No, we know about that.
Anyway, sorry, not
Yeah.
No interns for that. But I just had the conversation with her about, she says, well, how is it going? And are you guys starting to see, mamas want to know about the income. What are you seeing? Is stuff starting to come in? Do you have sponsors? I said, yeah, we got a few sponsors. I said, but Ma, we haven't downgraded our quality and we haven't done the foolishness that could boost us up because we've had a certain level of integrity and, quality that we stuck to, and it's going to take longer. To what you guys talked about. She was like, yeah, that makes sense because she said you can go out and act a fool and get some money. I said, Mom, they doing it every day.
Yeah, I mean,
they doing it every day.
And plus, none of us are what you would say famous.
Right.
Gilly, for whatever you say, he was a signed rapper. Joe Budden. Yeah. You can say he's a one-hit wonder, but that's one more hit than any of us have.
And they interview big people. We don't do.
Yeah,
interviews.
I can't.
We've interviewed people. Don't get me wrong.
But I can't call on last Joe Budden. He just like randomly called DJ Drama. None of us have those kind of connects where we can just call DJ Drama or whoever.
For sure.
And that's definitely a nice added bonus. We'll just say that to be able to do that. But no, y'all make
resources to tap into.
Facts. Y'all make good points though. That's good points, especially with you about oversaturation not necessarily being.
I think it's just how you. I think it's just how you look at it. Like when
people fall off so quickly.
For sure, I'm looking at like what can we do to be consistent? What can we do to make sure that we continue to grow? If you followed our shows over the last 310 episodes, you've seen the growth, right? And you've seen the stuff that we talked about. You've seen not only the growth in like the visual, and the audio has always pretty much been pretty good, but the visual portion has gotten better, and how we present ourselves and all this other stuff like that. But you've also noticed an improvement in how we speak, how we approach topics. You've seen how, we don't talk over each other unless we've been drinking a lot. We're not Noriing the hell out of it, but it's there is a lot that goes into it. And, I've had many consultations with people that have been interested in podcasting, and I've been very upfront with them, like, as
you should,
like, look, you can get into this pretty easily, but that's not where the work is. Mm-mm. So it's being consistent and like, it's number one. It's like, who are you? Yeah. Why do I care?
Yeah.
It looks pretty.
Why do I care?
Real pretty.
Why do I care who you are?
Yeah.
If you can get me to care, then you're doing something. But it's like,
I know that for a
fact.
But
that's the way that I address it. It's like, what can you do to impress me? Why would I want to listen to your podcast?
Why would I take an hour out of my
time?
Why do I need to pay attention to it? And there are a handful of podcasts and shows out there that people do a really good job. The information is super, provocative. It's super.
It is. Some people do a bad job, but it's just because of who they are.
Who they are. Yep.
The reason why they get the fanfare and the traffic.
And those people will always be there, and those people will continue to jump higher, and they will soar past us because of who they are. But that's just that's the game. That's what it is.
And you can't be mad at you. At least I'm not going to be mad just because somebody is famous and they said, hey, I want to do a podcast today. And all of a sudden they just already automatically have 10,000 listens built in.
It's what it is.
It's what it is. Yeah.
And then you have people like, I'm going to throw him out there, Jay Diff, who's done a spectacular job of not only taking his fame that he had, but also like having extremely good content with it. Like he's the one sports podcast show that I'll watch because I feel like he conducts really good interviews and he's super knowledgeable about it. And on top of that, he can literally pull up all these people and call all these people. Like he's been there, he knows all that stuff. So it adds.
I would agree with JJ for sure.
I really like the old man and the three. You know what I mean? So,
but I think what really speaks to our audience and our following, who I think is very dedicated, even though they may not be the largest following in the world, is because we have given them something that they can use. We've given them not only entertainment but information, and because we haven't stepped off the porch and decided we're going to do the BS, they've stuck with us. Like
we appreciate it
because we got morals in this.
Yeah, because the crazy thing is,
my favorite Terry
the
line.
people we have more because of course, if you didn't already know, whoever's watching or listening, we record this in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah,
but Indianapolis, Indiana is not where we get most of our listens and views.
You'd laugh if you actually saw the percentage.
We get most of the people who listen and view this podcast aren't even people that
Wichita,
we know.
Kansas.
Yeah, they'll be across the country and sometimes across we got listeners internationally that engage with us. So like we're thankful to them because clearly we have something of value, even though none of us are famous and we can't call anybody famous, but we're talking about something that is interesting and it's consistent, and we've done a good job to where they're dedicated to what we do here.
And you can do that too.
Yeah, and you can do that too. But once again, it's about, if you're going to do it once a month, do it once a month. If you're going to do it every week, figure out what's going to work for you, because if you just come in here all willy-nilly, be like, I'll do a podcast today and put it out tomorrow, and then you won't do another one for 3 weeks, and then you expect them to build a following.
It's like a marriage.
It don't work like that.
It's like a marriage.
Wisdom. That's wisdom right there.